Yes.
Thank you, Bishop Smitha. That was really inspiring, and I hadn't twigged that it was the 1700th anniversary, so that's something to take away. I was really quite grateful for your mention of gender and how young people are asking us to grapple with this issue. And it just reminded me that when we say the creed in my church, and this is an inherited practice, so I didn't do this, they translated the line, and was made man, and was made flesh. The Greek is not gendered apparently, and we've made it man. And I just, it's made me think about perhaps how we overlay, sometimes we add gender into things that perhaps aren't there. I don't know if you want to respond to that at all.
Don't get me started.
We've got you started, Philip, so go for it.
Our language is so important. We begin the collect of purity, Almighty God. Those are the first words we utter in the preparation for prayer. At one level, I really, I just love that, the beauty of that, the fact that it has been prayed in vestries and narthexes and whatever, or as community. But Almighty God, you know, it's not the first epithet that I want to use for the God I serve. Compassionate God, sovereign God. You know, there's something generous God, gracious God. That I think when we use those kind of adjectives, that takes away the gendered nature. You know, on Sunday we'll have all done Jesus weeping over Jerusalem, 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 and then the mother hen, you know, and it's the one time we use this image. And I've been invited to church. I was invited on Sunday, and somebody said, "Oh, instead of preaching, can we be in dialogue with each other?" And I thought, dialogical sermon, great. let's see what comes creatively. It was a risk, of course, and my co-preacher said, and of course we're all familiar with mother hens and chicks, and that's how we want church to be, isn't it? Lovely and fluffy and thinking, oh, did you completely miss the point? Yeah? What Jesus is talking about is about an aspect which isn't gendered. It's not the mother, it's the mothering nature, the one who gathers her brood under her wings. And when I was thinking about it, and when I was a child, and the family home in India, we had chickens running around everywhere. We could choose which one we'd have for tea. But before that, we would notice always that the sheltering under the wings. I see it more with ducks now. You know, ducks by ponds. I see it regularly. I don't see mother hens so much, maybe it's the context. But there's something about the self-sacrificing nature. Apparently in farmyards, everywhere, barn fires, you often find a mother hen dead, and under her wings are all the chicks who have saved. Jesus sets his face to Jerusalem, and is what we have is a God, the Son, who is obedient. Those are the things that come out. In our prayers, I think we need to be really, really careful, because part of it is what are we passing on to the next generation? What are we passing on to people who are around us? Using adjectives for God, or using those wonderful, wonderful names where you think, what does that mean again? And it makes us to say, what is El Shaddai? What is Shekinah? Who is Rahim, El Roy? When we use those names for God, the God who sees, El Roy, I think it's beautiful. You know, there are is it 9 stories of blindness? Jesus curing people who are blind, but not physically only, but spiritual blindness, hardness of heart. I think those things, if we use the names for God which are bigger than how we in English gender them, we would be passing on such a compelling, beautiful nature of God that actually people would want to be more curious and want to pray in that way. So I think go for it. Change the little things. Ask your bishop, because apparently that's what you do. I didn't know that. But if you want to write a proper preface, by the way, you write your proper preface for the Eucharistic prayer and say, Bishop, I'd like to write this, I'd like to use this in my context, and I think the answer will be yes. So try it.
Brilliant. Yes, well, and I can testify, so I did my curacy at St Mark in the Fields with St Wells. Every Sunday there is a different Eucharistic prayer, all written by Sam Wells and a colleague. And he's obviously got permission from the Bishop of London to be able to do that. So you've heard it. You've heard it.
Yeah. Think what is permitted, and that is permitted. It's not so much about authorised prayer only.
Fantastic. Okay, which table is going to go next with a response or a question? Bristol made a lot of noise. I think it's Bristol. You're up next. One of you. Go on, Paul.
I haven't really formed a question, but I think I was reflecting on how we spend a lot of time in the church at the moment talking about orthodoxy, and in a particular context. This might be a bit of a hand grenade question, I don't know. But historically, of course, orthodoxy is defined by the creed, so perhaps not about Bible interpretation, but about our inherited faith through the creeds. So I'm interested in a reflection on that, but also thinking about how you were then talking about the creeds in the context of interfaith dialogue. So what does it mean to define our community with the creeds, and then to use that to help us in interfaith dialogue? There's no question in there. I just don't know what.
It's just an observation, isn't
Yeah.
it? I think we're so hung up on orthodoxy, we're so hung up on doctrine, we're so hung up on, inherited tradition. Some of it is all good. But then I wonder about the scriptures where, Jesus says, behold, I make all things new. And there is newness of life, newness of expression, newness of God's dynamic spirit, wherever we might be. And you talked about your context, and I think Alistair will be talking a lot more about context. My context growing up, the first 10 years of my life I spent in India. I really have led a nomadic existence. I'm living in my 26th house. It's sort of vicarages, one after the other. But growing up, it was growing up with a people of faith. And I thought we could all talk about faith all the time. Because that's what I was used to as a child. People who were Hindu talking to people who were Christian, who were Muslim, etc. And do you know tuk-tuks? Autos, you see a three-wheeler, the auto rickshaw. Normally, if you get into one of those, you will see along the front of the where the driver sits, you'll see the Sacred Heart of Jesus, you'll see Ganesha, you'll see the Om sign for God, you'll see a rosary, you'll see the whole thing from Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, whatever. And I think that's the insurance policy that people say. Maybe when they get into a tuk-tuk in India. But I think this is about faith, but not just faith, faiths seeking understanding. And I think that's what we need, faith seeking understanding.
Okay, I'm going to pick on the Leeds group next. One of you. Go on, Abby.
I reflected initially about the naming of the woman by the well, the importance of a name in things and how that changes a church's relationship with other organisations or individuals when you begin to get to know people. And that was something we were talking about in Sandra's context with the traveller community and how talking about rather than just kind of labelling, actually making it personal and getting to know was important. I wondered if you've got any reflections on
I think we are robed with dignity as the children of God. We make such a thing about naming, particularly at baptism, but other cultures do naming so much more than us. We might have a look at baby names and things, and choose them because of their significance or the family associations. But many cultures name people because of the future vision for that baby, for that child. And to get that story, I think, is to get something of the whole of the person rather than just what they represent or what work they're engaged with. It always strikes me that, going back to the first question, many women in the Bible are just the woman with the hemorrhage, the woman with, who bent double. Oh, do you want to be named by your affliction? No! So let's give them names. And if they haven't got them, why don't we dignify people, the ones we meet, in that way? Exactly. Always, always find out the name. And by the way, my name is Smitha, not Smitha, Smitha. And legend has it that I smiled before I cried at birth, hence my vocation is apparently to bring joy. I'm a twin, and she's swapped because she's a sweet dream. They didn't dream of having twins. So it's the way cultures tell the story.
And then a last one from either Lincoln or the York conversation.
That'd be me then.
Yeah.
I think one of the phrases that I've come into this workshop with was the idea of enacted hope. So as opposed to proclaimed hope, enacted hope. So deeply embodied, participative. And I think for me that resonated with your sense of disruptive grace. And also the story of the 11-year-old who in a sense, because of her deep participation in the rituals of her faith, developed an understanding. And I think for me it's just that sense that as Christians sometimes we've moved away from the enacted hope and we focus so heavily on the proclaimed hope through the words that we use. And I think people see a disconnect now. They look out in the world and don't see hope. And yet we're proclaiming this hope. And they're thinking, well, so I think, once again, it's not necessarily a question, but just this renewed call, I think, for us as Christians, particularly in ministry, to ask the questions, how do we enact the hope that we proclaim? What does that look like in this context? And we were saying, actually, often in many local parish contexts, it's very unglamorous. It is about offering the toddler group or the coffee morning to those who may not have a place to gather, and valuing that as deeply, deeply important work, but also saying actually what might the bigger, more costly enacting look like in our context, particularly with our global narratives today, or the particular larger challenges of our communities.
I really like the sense of being fully immersed in it, in your sense of hope. And I have to say I'm a hopist, definitely a hopist, and have said at various points of my life I have chosen my epitaph. And first it started off with, if these words were good enough for Jesus, they're good enough for me. Here lies a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of sinners. So I thought that would be good. It says something about me. But the latest epitaph I want is Prisoner of Hope. I don't care about my name being put there. I just want on my gravestone a prisoner of hope, and that hope is rooted, embedded in Jesus Christ. and that I don't want anything on my gravestone except prisoner of hope and the date of my baptism to remind people. So that's part of how we express it. The thing about the kind of lived hope, the articulating the story, telling it and having the confidence, that 11-year-old having the confidence. Children come into our churches, by and large, we send them out of the big liturgical space to go into to do the children's activities. My gosh, how many things can you do with hands, you know, drawing around your hands? It can be a butterfly, it can be a tree, it can be a this, it can be a that, it can be waves. Children entering space in other faiths are by their parents. They don't understand the words that are going on around them. There is no printed liturgy. But they hear it, and that hope is then, it's kind of imbibed. Then you don't need the printed word. For us, we've got the incarnate word. But we need to see how we incarnate the word in our contexts. I think, again, we can learn from others who are so in tune and well versed with their scriptures, their prayers, because it's not a sending out, but a drawing into the very heart. And that's where I think the hope is.
Well, Bishop Smitha, my sense is you really have brought us hope. You've brought us joy, you've brought us yourself, and I think that's one of the things that's really heartened me. And I think part of what we're looking to help to celebrate is the particularities of who we are in the particular context in which we find ourselves, and recognising that we are held in the hands and the arms of a loving God who really knows us and loves us. And it's just been a joy to have you with us and sharing with us. So let's show our appreciation.